Professor and program director in the community mental health at the California Institute of Integral Studies. He formerly was with the Public Health Commission for the city of San Francisco. He leads retreats in mindfulness and mental health. He's a therapist. I believe sewing his priest robes. He teaches basic counseling skills at the American College of Traditional Chinese Medicine. He's the former deputy director of the San Francisco AIDS Foundation and was very active with starting Magnet and the community outreach in the Tenderloin and Bayview and the mayor's task force for crystal meth. And he he went to Africa many times to consult with AIDS education and treatment of AIDS in Africa. So with that, I'd like to introduce our own Dr. Ruth.
No wonder I'm so tired.
Stephen Tierney. Thank you, Stephen.
Hi, everybody. It's a pleasure to be here. Again, whenever I can get a chance to come by on a Sunday. So we're going to talk about sex today, and some of you are smiling, and I'm looking out in the audience, so some of you are a little nervous that I might ask you a question. And so we will. I just want to say that I've been doing a lot of work with sexuality for a long time. And recently I was at a workshop that was kind of fun. It was led by a transgender activist. And this person said to us at the beginning of the workshop, I want to ask, we're going to go around and do names, which we've done, so we won't do it again. But imagine that we were calling her to do this. And she said she wanted us to identify by first name where you came on the scale of gay to straight, lesbian, bisexual, transgender, queer, questioning, intersex. I think there were a couple more. Where you came on the scale of masculine to feminine by your own definition, with masculine being 1 and feminine being 10. In terms of your sex life, she wanted to know who you have sex with, who you desired to have sex with, and who you used to have sex with. And there was one other question. Well, some of you have a look on your face right now, which is the look most of us had on our face. First of all, for those of us near 60, it's like I will never remember all those questions, and I'm sure I'm going to say who I wanted to have sex with and used to. Anyway, the point of all that was that sexuality is, all words have meaning, and they have meaning from us, and they have meaning out there in the world. What happened in that group, it was all either therapists or sex educators that were in the group, but it was San Francisco, right? So you know what happened, right? People said, well, I feel like we have a right to privacy, and I shouldn't have to put that information out in public, blah, 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 And other people immediately threw up their hand and said, I have sex with everybody, used to, want to, and did. Sometimes wearing high heels and sometimes combat boots. So it was San Francisco, so it was a fabulous experience, as we might have. But the point is the meaning that gets assigned, and the meaning that we assign to sexuality, even in a fairly tight group on a Sunday afternoon at the Hartford Street Center for the Gay, Lesbian, Bisexual, Transgender Sangha that's gathered here today. We still assign meaning to words and judgments, and judgments to those words. So it's really kind of interesting. So when we start to talk about sex and sexuality on a scale of, really wanting sex to not wanting it, or not ever having it, or having too much, to sexual obsession and addiction, the first question that you really ask yourself has to do with, why do people have sex, right? So one way to think about that, and again, we'll not ask you to recite here, although when we get to question and answer time, feel free. I want you all just to take a deep breath for a minute and think about the best sexual experience you ever had. Who was there? What made it the best sexual experience you've ever had? Hopefully it was thoughtful and warm and involved 2 people or more. Hopefully there was some care that went on. What were the things that made it the best sexual experience you had? So think about that for just a second, the very best sexual experience you've ever had. And then I also want you to think about the last sexual experience you ever had. And keep your eyes closed, but just by show of a big smile, for how many people was the best one you ever had and the last one the same one? Yeah, thanks. Okay, so you can open your eyes now. And those are just questions that, in terms of sexuality, just so you know, with your eyes closed, we got 1 hand raised and 2 smiles out of a group of about 25 of us. So that's about average for what that question evokes. So one of the things about sex is the basic question is, why do people do it? And I don't know about you, but I was raised in an Irish Catholic family. We all come from different religious backgrounds. Sex, when I was young and being taught about sex, was for procreation. So we had sex so that we would have babies, so that there would be more Irish Catholic people, so we could take over what few institutions in Detroit and Chicago we didn't already have. And you can see how that worked for us. So that was the idea, and a lot of the rules about what was good sex and what was sex for and how you did it and when you did it were built on that notion. So the thought about why you have sex is a really important question. We then went through sort of sexual liberation times, right? And then we had sex because we could, or the best reason, because it felt good. It was a way of connecting, and it was a way of intimacy, and so we wanted to have sex. And so that was a really good time. And then there was a little bit of, during that sexual liberation time and Stonewall and the Summer of Love and those things, there was the other phenomenon, which was, oh, well, what if everyone's having sex but I'm not? I wonder if I'm having enough. I wonder if it's with the right people. And so there started to be, instead of growing up in theory and partnering with one person in theory, with whom you got married in theory, all of a sudden it was all these possibilities. And for most of us, matters of sex came with a good dosage of, am I doing it right? Is it lasting long enough? Is it completely consensual? Then there were all those self-help books about the things you were supposed to say. So you're trying to concentrate on getting the right thing into the right hole and say this right thing at the right time and make sure that you had a cigarette and some cheery conversation afterwards. Got to be a great deal of burden for a lot of people. And so now we have sex, and we have permission to do it, and we have the wanting to be really good people so that the other person enjoys sex as much as you do, and everything was grand. And then for a lot of us, HIV came along. And so then we weren't having so much sex maybe, or we weren't having the sex we wanted to have, or in complete defiance we were having sex. And often while we were having it, we were thinking of some sort of medical and mathematical calculation about protecting ourselves and protecting other folks, or we were thinking of defiance of those same things. So all of a sudden we were in this place of, wow, what's supposed to just be a simple coming, you'll excuse the expression, together, is suddenly all charged with all sorts of emotions and feelings. And as we certainly are not post-AIDS, post-HIV, no matter what the newspapers might want to tell you, but we're in an era where people certainly think differently about what they do. Teenagers and gay men and straight folks and the folks who are most at risk for HIV, even all of those groups are thinking differently. So basically it's a lifelong process of us figuring out what the meaning of sex is, to what degree it's connected to intimacy, to what degree, Eric Rofus, who used to live a couple blocks from here, did a lot of wonderful writing about sex as what defined us. And as gay men or lesbians, bisexuals, transgenders, sex was really, sex and gender for the transgender community is really the basic, if it wasn't for that sex piece, then we'd just be creative and decorative. We would not in fact be the gay community. So that's really at the core. And that, again, adds a certain amount of pressure